Hello everyone, this is Dan from USMX Football here, and today we'll be discussing Mexico 2, the United States 1 in the Gold Cup final. And what a freaking game. I have to say, it was complete domination from Mexico, if we're being completely honest. The United States came with a very defensive approach in mind, in my opinion. They got the goal very early from Chris Richards, an excellent ball in from Berhalter. From a deep free kick was got on the end of Chris Richards. It was actually not the best ball, but Richards made a fantastic effort with it and hit it on underside of the crossbar, and an absolute banger to start the game off. But from then on out, Pochettino just almost looked for counterattacks to try and exploit, but this Mexico team, their best tool was their defense, and the U.S. kind of played it into their hands. So let's look at the lineup. Not too much changed. Pochettino came out with the exact same lineup. So really, we should probably talk about the substitutions, because that's what we've been talking about with Poch, is how, in my opinion, late they've been. So around the mid 68 minutes, Luca De La Torre comes off for Damian Downs, which, a very offensive change. And really what happens is Berhalter then comes down here. There was a bit of confusion actually when the change first happened. You saw the team struggling to make the change, but they eventually got to it. And it kind of became a 4-2-2, especially when they were defending, and that's how it looked. With Luna Tillman on the right, something like that. And not a bad idea in my opinion. I see what Poch was doing to try and see the game out, close, get a goal. But it kind of backfired. That Jorge Sanchez handball, in my opinion, was a penalty. I have no idea why the ref didn't give it. So after the second goal, the second Mexico goes in, then we see some more changes. Jack McGlynn comes on for Tyler Adams. I'm not sure if that was for legs or what, or just to be a little bit more offensive. But it was almost a bit too late. These changes were like late in the 80th minute already. And the other sub was Brennan Aronson for Diego Luna and Tolkien for Max Arston. And I mean, when you looked at the subs Mexico was doing, these are just inferior quality in my opinion. We'll get to the Mexico lineup in a second, but this is what the US closed out with, and if I'm being honest, this just isn't good enough. I mean, Richards and Ream, okay, maybe they're starters. Berhalter, maybe. McGlynn, I just don't see him good enough in my opinion. And he's actually number 6. Aronson, in my opinion, he was really poor with that appearance. I think he just doesn't have the quality to be in this national team. Even as an impact sub, for me, just isn't good enough. Ajerman had a very poor game. Tried to do what he could, linking up play, but in my opinion, he was just very poor. Damian Downs didn't have much to do. He was pressing well, but just didn't have much to do. Malik Tillman as well, pretty ineffective. Really, the best player was Chris Richards, because he was doing so many defensive actions. He had to finish like 6 or 7 blocks, if I'm being honest, clearing everything he could. He was by far the best player. So just a very underwhelming performance from the U.S. men's national team. Pochettino as well, very unimpressive. And you just expect more in a big game. I thought, Diego Luna was fighting for some balls, but you could tell he was getting very frustrated with just constantly having to defend, because that's what the plan from Pochettino was just defend, maybe look for a counterattacking opportunity, but just a very lackluster plan in my opinion. Jumping over to Mexico, they got the lineup. I got the lineup almost right, with the only change being Gilberto Mora actually coming in. I got that wrong. I didn't think he'd start, but he did. And Jorge Sanchez starting in place for Mateo Chavez. I think it was to help with that Diego Luna matchup, to be honest, because he's probably the best defensive option. He's okay offensively, but not compared to the other guys. So I think that's what the idea that I had in mind. Jesus Gallardo came back, and man, if you guys kept an eye on him, super poor performance from him. And I talked about that I think he's only in this team for favoritism. And you probably saw it. So many loose touches, lost the ball so many times. Defensively, he wasn't even that good. I mean, yeah, very poor performance. Cesar Montes, I don't even rate, to be honest, because there were a lot of moments he probably should have gotten a few more cards, because there were a few times where he could have easily gotten sent off for some of the stupid challenges he was putting in. Malagon had a very good game, I thought, with what he had to do. Jorge Sanchez, that probably should have been a handball. I have no idea how they didn't call that. Johan Vasquez he got the assist for that Raúl Jiménez goal. He was probably the best defender on the night, him and Edson, because Edson drops back a lot and helps defensively. Marcel Ruiz also had a very good game. Him and Gilberto Mora, who we'll talk about him in a second. Marcel Ruiz did an excellent job threading everything together, assisting Jimenez on that first goal, and just looking like the most creative option in the midfield. Gilberto Mora, very good performance. In my opinion, a very underrated performance in that, yes, he didn't score, he didn't assist, but all the actions he had to do, he was very smart with them. He never gave away a ball stupidly. He was always looking for not even the safe pass, but just the smart pass. And in my opinion, a very composed performance from a very young kid who, in my opinion, that performance was very much beyond his years. So good performance from him. Piojo Alvarado, not bad, kind of just the usual performance from him. Up and down a lot, helped defensively. When he's attacking, I don't know, he's just very wild sometimes, and in my opinion, at this age, you'd kind of want a more composed performance from him, but what are you going to do? Alexis Vega, I thought, was actually pretty good. He was trying to do little flicks and skills around the players when he could, nothing, rash, so not a bad performance. And the GOAT, man, what a big goal, and that tribute to Jota was just beautiful. Yeah, don't have enough great things to say about Raúl. That goal was everything you wanted, man. I'm going to say best player. Even though he just got one goal, he was the best player. The subs were very late. The first one being Gilberto Mora would come off for Orbelín Pineda in the 75th minute, just before that free kick goal. And I have to say, that was a very unsatisfying goal. Not only because of the VAR check and all that, but just as a Mexico fan, it felt like, well, even the handball that they didn't call, it kind of felt like they're doing us a bit of, giving us a bit too many favors here. But as soon as the free kick came in, I could have sworn I heard a whistle, and that's why I was like, oh, they're going to call it off. And then when the goal went in and they VAR checked it, and they're like, nah, it was 100% good. I don't know, you just felt kind of underwhelmed from that point, but take it. But in a competitive match, in a final, you take it. After that, the next change wouldn't come till like the last 5 minutes. Santi came on for Raúl, which we expected. Chino Huerta came on for Roberto Alvarado, which we also expected. And Jorge Sanchez got injured in those last few minutes, and Israel Reyes came on in his position. So overall, it was a pretty comfortable game for Mexico. I thought that in the midfield particularly, it was a bit of a shame that the U.S. didn't take more control of the game, because with Gilberto Mora so young, I don't want to say the only real threat, but like Marcel Ruiz and Edson, who's very defensive, that's not a midfield that should be overrunning you. I think if maybe Weston McKennie was in this midfield, it could have played out a little bit differently. He would definitely bring just a more intense physical presence, but you have to say, from Adams, De La Torre, and Tillman, it was just underwhelming how they were just completely dominated for almost the entire game, really. I want to say that's where the game was won and lost, in that midfield. A bit of a cliche thing to say, but there were a few opportunities. Mexico took advantage of them. The U.S., they had, outside of the early goal, they had a few chances that they just didn't put away, but there were just not too many of them. Diego Luna couldn't create because he was having to defend so much. I would think that maybe with Anthony Robinson on that wing, he wouldn't have had to defend so much, but that was also a consequence of Pochettino's play, in that he was so defensive for the entire game that you just wonder, like, were you trying to win it? Were you just trying to hold on to it? I don't know, just very poor game management from a guy who if you look at his record in finals, it's pretty bad. I don't think outside of PSG against like Lyon, Monaco, and I forget who else, but he's only won 3 out of 8 finals and cups, or tournament finals basically. He's only won 3 out of 8, and those 3 were with PSG against the opposition he should have comfortably beat. So pretty scary going into the World Cup next year. If Pochettino's, I don't see them changing, but he's got to make some changes if he wants to find any success with this team, because that performance was very underwhelming. Hope you guys enjoyed. That's going to be it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and peace.